Hi YouTubers, as promised, second video, Hall of the Wynd. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. In the year 1396, King Robert III visited Perth. He had already sent two of his earls north to try and resolve a dispute between two clans. Now, we don't know whether a dispute was between two clans within Clan Chatton or Chatton, which included Macintoshes, McPhersons, McGilvrays, Davidsons, and some others, or whether it was part of an ongoing blood feud with Clan Cameron, which had lasted 300 years. Anyway, it was agreed, after the earls had failed to reach an agreement between the clans, it was agreed that there would be a contest of arms, like a gladiatorial contest really, to be held on the South Inch at Perth when the king visited. South Inch is like a flat area of land beside the River Tay. Like a summer house that belonged to one of the local monasteries was converted into a grandstand so that the king and his retinue could watch the battle, and the area set aside for the fight was cordoned off by wooden fencing on three sides. And on the fourth side was the River Tay. Now, the combatants, who presumably were the toughest that the clans could bring together, marched through the town, pipes skirling, and must have been quite a show. Anyway, of course they paraded through the town with their weapons. They'd have these targers, leather shields with a spike sticking out the front, and big daggers, and of course the claymore, the big two-handed sword that could cut a man in two. They wouldn't have been wearing tartans though, because tartans hadn't been invented. I think probably in order to not to have the fight dragging on all day, the king had decided that there would be no armour and they would fight without armour, so they probably had like padded buff coats, and anyway, the Highlanders were quite apt to take off most of their clothes bar a shirt and just tear in. So anyway, they marched to the South Inch, whereupon it was discovered that Clan Chatton had one man short. So they asked the opposing side if they could if they would drop one man, so it would each fight with 29 instead of the original 30 on each side. But the other side refused to do that, probably because nobody wanted to back out and risk being called a coward. They say that the man who didn't turn up had run away, but I think it more likely, given the sanitary arrangements of the day, that he was ill. As some reports suggest. Anyway, given that the other side refused to cooperate. We don't know whether the king asked for volunteers to step forward, or whether our good friend Hal of the Wynd decided to step in on his own volition. Anyway, whatever. Henry, a smith, which in Gaelic would be Gowcrom, known as variously Henry Smith, Henry Gow, or Hal of the Wynd. Now, a wynd is a Scots term for like an alley or a narrow passage between buildings. That's a wynd. You can still find named wynds in various Scottish towns today: Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Oliver. Not limited to Perth. Anyway, Hal of the Wynd had a reputation as being a bit of a scrapper. I think what we might call today a recht nutter. And the sort of guy maybe who would for no apparent reason come up to you in the street and go, "What are you looking at?" Boomf. You know? That sort of guy, I think, really. Anyway, he accepted an offer of half a French crown, which was a coin, not a bit of headgear, and the promise of being maintained for life by the Chattons. Anyway, the personnel crisis having been solved, the combatants formed up in the enclosure. King's trumpets blared and both sides launched themselves at each other. Well, for 15 minutes there was carnage. Limbs hacked off, heads cleaved in two by these great swords. Of course, the clash of steel on steel, screams of the wounded. After 15 minutes, the pipes sounded and the warriors both sides stepped back for a bit of a breather. They say that at that time 20 men on each side lay dead or dying on the field. Wow. As soon as they'd regained their breath, trumpets sound again, back into the fray, until there were only 11 men left on the side of Clan Chatton, including Hal of the Wynd, and only one of the opposing side, who, seeing that his cause was lost, turned around, jumped into the River Tay and swam to safety on the other side. So that's Hal of the Wynd, and that ended the battle of what became known as the Battle of the Clans, or the Battle of the North Inch. Don't know if it solved the dispute, but it's said that after the battle, when asked by a bystander which side he had favoured, Hal couldn't say, and that he had fought for his own hand. I'm sure he would have been proud to have had such a great tobacco named after him. But then, in 1396, he wouldn't have known what tobacco was. See ya.